is Mugdha and
I am Avinash.
And we are here today with our 5th episode of the Embracing the Human Experience podcast. This is a podcast or a show in which me and Avinash, through our life experiences, talk about what does it really mean to be a human being and what does it even mean to really embrace the experience fully, right? So we talk about the body, we talk about the mind and the mental frameworks, we talk about emotions and how to process them, and we also talk about spirituality and your soul itself. And I think the last few podcasts were about the body and the mind, and today we are going to focus on my favorite topic, which is emotions. Actually, all of them.
Yeah, you know me, right? I don't relate to emotions that much. That is what I used to think before I met you. Okay, I am not an emotional person. I am not this. I am not that. Like it happens. A lot of us think that we are no longer an emotional being. What we have realized, what I have realized over a period of time, it's one of our being apart from your body, mind, and soul. So emotional being is a being that has to be dealt with, and you can't just run away from it saying that okay, I don't exist.
Because I think, at least in your case, you had kind of numbed the feeling aspect of yourself because the trauma and all of that life had taken you through, and to feel all of that and to constantly be aware of that is really, really painful and very energy intensive, and you're a person who wants to conserve energy all the time. So I think that's really why you considered yourself a non-emotional person, but if you're a human being, there's no way you're not going to be emotional.
But the fallout of that, because I was numbing myself or protecting myself against the bad kind of emotion, although I don't believe there are any bad emotions,
right.
But I was not able to enjoy the so-called good emotions, the happiness, the bliss, the love, even those were numb. So you can't numb a particular emotion, you can't block a particular frequency. Everything will get blocked, or everything will get exposed.
If a nerve is numbed, then anything that nerve is going to feel is going to be numbed, right? You can't be conditional saying only pain or only guilt or only shame or grief I'm not going to feel, but I'm going to experience love and joy.
Exactly.
That's really a bypassing method, and it's not real. You're just creating an ego identity around it. Your mind is just creating some kind of protective mechanism, which is not the real experience of expressing or experiencing emotions.
A lot of experiences gets blocked, and that is what the purpose of this podcast and the program that we are launching. Embracing all kinds of experiences. That is so important for understanding your emotional quotient, your emotional being, and to a large extent, I will blame this corporatization of this kind of mental health model, where emotion has become an emotional quotient, EQ, just like IQ.
Yeah.
How can you just put mathematics or scale onto it?
I wouldn't exist if emotions were mathematical, because math and numbers and me are separate, and I'm just so much emotional energy all the time.
So this, constant quest for humans to be productive all the time, that you have to keep doing something, you have to keep doing it in a better way, more efficient way. That I don't know, like so many, like with this IT thing, so many services came up to reduce our time spent. And what are we doing with that time? Nothing.
Netflix.
Like Zomato came and all these things came कि तुम्हारा time कम हो जाएगा.
So you save time from cooking because you can order from Zomato, and then you order from Zomato and you go spend that time on Netflix. So inherently you're just still exchanging your time for absolutely.
So sticking to that corporate jargon, like emotional quotient itself is such a faulty term. Like you can't have quotient about your own being. Like it can't be reduced to a number. So it has to be experienced in its whole. Either there is a whole or there is a none.
Yeah.
So you can't lie somewhere in between, and no one is going to.
No, you can. Like there are ranges, right? Like see, the way I would experience an emotion, the depth to which I could experience an emotion might not be the same depth that someone else might experience it, because some emotions are really scary. Like for me, even experiencing peak joy or like when I'm in the state of absolute love, my face starts leaking, right? Which is called as tears.
Yeah,
mostly.
I know.
So people are very afraid of that. Like, why are you crying? And then they don't want to be in that space where they look vulnerable because tears are coming out of their eyes. So people kind of.
Yeah, so many times, so many situations, so many people were told crying is not a good thing.
Yeah.
You come across as a weak person, or you're not strong.
So people are afraid of the depth of every emotion, like even feeling guilt to its deepest deep, which is like it's like the abyss itself, of feeling shame. It's like you drown in it sometimes, right? So people don't. So I think there are ranges, though quantification or putting numbers would be impossible, but I don't think it's really all or none. I think there are grades and ranges of how you might perceive a certain emotional energy, which brings me to my question actually, according to you, what are emotions?
So actually I learned it from you.
Okay, let's see if you learned it right.
I was told the other day on a public platform only, I learned that emotion is energy in motion.
Yeah.
So you're an energy being. So one of your energy being is how do you express those energies inside you. So that is what the emotion is all about. You're experiencing something which you want to express. Now that physical form, what it takes, whether it is crying or whether it is laughing, whether it is being sad or whether just jumping off the cliff, that is another kind of emotions, right? So that energy, the way it is pushing you into your body into a motion, that is what I believe is emotion. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
True. So I think you got quite a bit of it right, that energy is, emotions are energy in motion. It's like emotion, right? Energy in motion. And honestly, right, the experience of being a human being happens through these emotions that we perceive. So if it was just about a mental construct, right, like you were just doing things because you had a mental framework around how to, let's say, solve a problem or how to interact with another being, or if it was just about your body, just having a body was what was making you a human being, or if it was just about like I don't think that their soul spiritual connection can happen without your emotional resilience built in. But being a human being is not just about the body or the mind, right? Because that even a robot can do, like an AI or a very well made cloned human body with like the most supreme genetic engineering. You create actual human body.
It will happen. If it is not there, it will happen.
It's already there, I think, but that's my conspiracy theorist speaking. But you could just do that, and that could be very artificial, right? What really makes this entire experience real, memorable, is the emotional energy. And honestly, a lot of these emotions are also part of your record keeping. So memories get stored along with emotions. Like if you didn't have an emotional charge for a particular memory, it wouldn't get recorded in your system.
Exactly.
Whether it's your body or whether it's your mind. So emotions are incredible. One is they allow you to experience what's happening in real time. They allow you to make sense of your real-time experience, right? So the entire stress mechanism also, the nervous system activation that happens, your emotions are big time involved in that. And trauma, I think we'll do in a separate podcast, but trauma interferes with this entire emotional processing system. So your emotions are energy in motion. They help you navigate this world. They help you understand if it's safe or not. They help you figure out if an experience is pleasurable or if it's painful. They help you kind of store and retrieve memories for future access.
Exactly.
And they also, I think the most beautiful part about emotions is they help you connect with another human being. Because without emotions, a real connection, that emotional energy is through which a connection happens, right? You see, like even if you're watching a video where, all these funny videos where somebody's skating and they fall off and they get hurt or something. So when you watch that moment when another human being is in pain, you actually internally cringe a little bit. Like you feel that, right? You feel another human being's pain.
Okay. The falling videos, we normally laugh.
We laugh at the stupidity, but
we are not actually cringing at...
No, maybe I think to a degree you're also laughing that you're glad it was not you who fell, right? So I don't know. But when you see another human being in pain, when you see another being go through grief, when you see another being experience trauma, if you're really connected with your emotions, you can experience another person's experience, and that is the muscle of empathy.
Yeah, deeper level of connection. And as I have rightly said, every incident in our life is earmarked with an address, that is emotion.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everything is happening in someone else's life also. We don't bother about it, right? If you score good marks in your exam, you feel happy, ecstatic. Every day, someone or the other is scoring the good mark.
Somebody's coming first,
You're not feeling ecstatic about it. So you're only thinking about your incident because you have emotion.
It's your personalized experience. Yeah. And if your muscle of empathy is really strong, if you're really connected, then you can also have a collective experience.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us had this collective experience during COVID. the fear that
fear,
humans
yeah.
collectively experience, right? Like no matter how insulated you were, no matter how much resilience you had built inside yourself, you could feel the emotions of the collective, which was predominantly fear.
Yeah.
And for the anarchists like me, there was also anger. but
that was not collective enough.
Yeah, there was a small collective around that anger,
yeah.
but mostly it was fear, right? So a lot of us plugged into that collective feeling of fear, and there was also a lot of grief through 2021 as we lost people that we loved, as families separated, as actually people succumbed to the disease. So collectively, fear and grief were the two predominant emotions that even I could plug into and feel, and then I had to kind of turn off my sensing, feeling ability because it was just too overwhelming for me to feel also.
Yeah, and especially when you feel helpless in such a circumstances, I can't do anything. I can't change the government around the world to see the sense in what they are doing or what they are perpetrating or switch off the media for everyone. So it's very difficult to control the collective emotional energy that everyone can feel. But yeah, media has a large part to play, and what we choose to watch, what we don't choose to watch, can always influence our emotional ability to perceive things, the experiences that we experience. And the few moments back you talked about, that emotional connect that we have with another human being. It's like, if you want to understand it fully, like you have a bodily connect, the physical connection that we talk about. Then there is a mental connect. Okay, I can connect with other person at the intellectual level. Then the emotional connect, and the final one is the soul level connection that we talk about, that soulmate kind of thing. So this deeper level of connections, this is like last but one step where you're connecting with someone emotionally, and that is a very beautiful state of being, because what I have experienced, what I numbed myself for so many years not to feel this particular state, because I thought I am being taken advantage of, or I am not in a safe place, or I am not secured here, and I should protect myself, close myself so that I don't get this emotional reaction out of me. But I was missing out on so many beautiful things. So thanks to you that I am not fully into it. There is still whole and none ke beech mein there is a gradation, and I'm still figuring out, but it cannot be, we can't put numbers on it. It's 30%, 40%, 70%. So what do we do next? Like, where do we go from here? Identifying emotions?
Yeah, so I don't know, like me, I would ideally want to like spend an entire podcast around each emotion, right? Like shame itself has so many nuances, or guilt, like people think guilt is wrong, but guilt is the right kind of guilt, like positive guilt, which is stemming just from your soul, not from social conditioning. That guilt is literally your conscience telling you that, hey, you're doing something wrong. So, I mean, every emotion I could do like 1 hour talking about it. I could talk about courage. I could, and we put numbers, but that numbers comes from that other book, Power versus Force. But I think today I don't really want to go into each emotion. I would want to dedicate like sufficient time for each of them to understand what that emotion means. I think what I just want to do today is, like, while we introduced what emotions are and we spoke about emotions are like literally energy in motion. The work that we do when we do embracing the human experience with people, right? So I work on the emotional aspect.
Yes.
What I teach people is how they can use emotions to kind of navigate their life experiences and take them closer to the life they deserve and want. But before I talk about how I do that, right, like I just want to go back. So you always often told me that you were emotionally numb and you didn't have any emotions. But you're here, you're 48, and like you're 40?
48.
48, okay, 48.
Completed, 49 started.
Okay.
I'm still
and you've lived a human life, like half a century almost, right? So you couldn't have really done that without emotions, otherwise you wouldn't have met me. So how did you, like in your childhood, what were the kind of emotions that you experienced? How did your emotional frequency transition through your life until now? I'm really curious about that.
So it's very difficult because I was never perceiving emotional being as another being. The most dominant emotion throughout my life has always been about crying. So that crying coming from, say, helplessness, or the crying coming from, say, pleasure, the crying coming from happiness. So
that's an expression of this.
Expressive part of emotion was only getting reflected and getting acknowledged, and getting talked about. Like in certain situation you cry, in certain situation you don't cry. So it's very difficult to see the entire range of emotion that I am experiencing or understanding now during those days.
But as a child, then what was the predominant feeling that
predominant feeling was of I just want to run away. Like,
okay.
I don't know whether it is an emotion or it is something. I don't belong here.
Okay.
I had that predominant thought of going and doing and moving away. I don't know from where to where. There's absolute no clarity on that. But I had this dominant thought that I have to run away.
Okay.
So I don't know which category of emotion.
Running away is the action, right? So the primordial feeling there is I don't belong, I don't fit in. Like that was
fear,
the feeling, right?
It must be fear.
It was a fear. It was a fear that I am not safe here. Like when you feel that you don't belong, when you feel that you need to get out of here, it's basically your body and everything, your entire mental frameworks, everything telling you get out because it's not safe here.
Yeah.
And that lack of safety comes from a place of fear only, right? Yes. So that's like
so
fear.
The fear was the dominant emotion, I guess, during my childhood. Now I am understand. See, the therapy is going on simultaneously. It's not that we are all knowing and we know everything and we can make sense of everything. We learn. Every moment is the learning process for me at least. And I'm sure Mugdha also belongs to the same category. So I learned, I kept myself open. I kept learning about it. That fear or that running away wala thing became my obsession with travel. So I kept traveling. I kept moving from one place to another.
And running.
And then I got into running, and then ultra running, and then cycling.
And you never went to
I don't know why I was running. Then the day I decided to ask this question, why are you running? I stopped running because there was no answer coming.
Yeah.
So there are so many emotions that we go through. Now if I look back, okay, I can see that predominant emotion of fear which was making me run away and how that action was getting reflected.
That fear, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that fear that you had was of your energy being abused and you being taken for granted. Was that the fear or what was it?
I don't know, but now if I look at my mature life or the adult life, I think that is what has happened. My emotions or my energy is being abused or misused, and for whatever reason, maybe knowingly, unknowingly, I don't know. People can do that. Other humans can do certain things to other humans, right? So we are not supposed to do it, but it has happened, and over a period of time, that protective layer started coming in. To protect my energy, I don't want to expose myself to anyone. So even if the world is bad, I just don't want to expose myself to that. Let me protect myself. That is the way to protect. So cover yourself up. So I was fat, maybe because of that reason.
Body armors up to protect you.
So body also responds to your emotional being. If you are happy, the body will be happy. It will be, going around jumping and being happy about it. If your emotions are more of a fear or sadness, the body will show that gloom on your face itself. If you are overwhelmed or if you are helpless, the body will show by crying, or you are in love. That is the predominant expression of a body. So I am understanding emotions slowly. The adult life was always been to pack myself up and not expose myself.
In a large part of your the relationship that you were in, we've spoken about this a little bit, right? So there was a degree of abuse that was there. Now, fear was already there as an emotion, right? What other emotions came in that allowed you to be... So why didn't you run away, right? How were you then held emotionally? Because this is something that people can do with emotional energy, right? Emotional energy can actually be used, it can actually be energetically used to hold another person like a possession. Like you can trap another person with emotional energy, but with consent. Like you have to agree to, like at a subconscious level, that agreement is made with another human being. You will get trapped into this. But there are two emotions primarily that are used for this, right? So I don't know if you...
One is the shame.
Shame itself, right?
Definitely and then you're not good enough. That is how the things are hammered into your head. You're not good enough, and you're responsible for certain things and you're not living up to it. So those two things make you want to prove yourself again and again, but you don't know there is no end. Like it's a bottomless pit.
Would that feeling be like a feeling of guilt then, that you're not doing enough, you're failing another person?
You're failing anher person, you're not there, and whatever you do, it's not enough.
It's never
enough. And that that makes you accept yourself the way you are not.
Like
And
a
then
low,
you-
not even the true version of yourself, right?
Exactly. And whatever version has been created or imposed by your surrounding or the people around you, that is what you start accepting. And when the revelation comes, okay, you're not that one, then who am I?
Yeah.
So then that journey starts of
That's
knowing
the
yourself.
waking up
That
moment.
is the awakening moment. That is how you wake up. That is how you start asking questions. That is how you start looking at yourself in a different light. And that is what happened with me, I guess. Ki, okay, I have had enough of not being good enough. So let me see what I am. Enough of.
And that energy must have felt different, right? That moment when you said, okay, I am done with this projection, I am done with being trapped. And by the way, guys, guilt and shame are the two oldest programs on this planet which are used to trap another human being. There is, it's the easiest way to trap a human being, to use guilt and shame. These are inherently there in us as energetic signatures, but they are not even supposed to, they're supposed to come up only when your soul or your conscience, that voice inside you, when that is being violated by your own actions, and you're supposed to self-generate it, maybe 1% of the time overall, right? But humans are intelligent creatures, and through conditioning and through belief systems, we learned how to control another human being using guilt and shame. Our parents do it to start off with, then our teachers do it. Society does it. Religion does it. Oh my God, religion is the worst. Religion, all institutions, and eventually, when you get in a significant relationship, any relationship would do it, even friends and all of that. But guilt and shame are the two emotions through which you get trapped into doing things that violates your soul's consent itself and make you a smaller thing.
So
right?
I have this small taste around it.
Yeah.
Whatever makes you happy, make a list of things.
Yeah.
And whatever makes you not happy, make a list of things. So the things that makes you happy is what your soul wants you to do.
Yeah.
That is what you're supposed to experience. And in my work, when I ask them to make the list, this one is very small.
Yeah, I know, right?
And the one I don't like doing is such a big list, but we keep doing this I don't like one thing all the time.
Because those things are the ones that society has validated as, if you do these things, you're a good person.
You're a good boy.
And if you don't do these things, then you should be ashamed of yourself, you should be guilty of your existence. And so you end up doing a lot of things that you're unhappy about, but you'll do it nevertheless because that doing has been controlled by guilt and shame, right? That moment when you took a call to kind of just leave and come back to India, right? That energy must have felt different from all the energy that you
At that moment, there was no feeling. There was nothing. I mean, absolutely no idea what I'm doing, why I'm doing, and where I'm going from here.
Okay.
Now I can make sense. I think it was some kind of calling, voodoo or spirit or whatever you call. Someone was possessed. I was possessed by someone. He let me take this person out of this place and put him somewhere else. Maybe he'll figure out from there. So I had zero idea what I did.
Okay.
Then. So absolutely no emotional memory. I was crying all through. Maybe it was stored emotion for so many years of.
Stored, and I think you were also letting go of an identity itself, right? Like that identity that you held, which was allowing you to remain trapped. You were letting go of that identity.
Belonging to a particular majority section of the society.
So death of an identity always results in tears because you're grieving the loss of something about yourself itself, right? So that crying I can understand. But I think at some point now, between that guilt and shame and the apathy that you had for your own life, courage showed up. And
I realized it afterwards.
And that courage, right, that is the spark. That tiny, it's like a dot. You won't even realize. Later in retrospect, you'll be like, okay, this moment courage came, this moment courage came.
In fact, I believe there are so many people who came into my life after that particular incident and who gave different meaning. They have changed paradigm shift had happened in my thought process about me. One such a person who gave me this word courage. Like I was all the time, I was thinking about I am Bhagoda. And she said,
okay.
Yeah, the person who runs away, right?
Okay.
So how many people in the world has the courage to give up everything and start afresh?
Right.
Call yourself courageous person. That particular lady, I only remember her for that, and she changed entire perspective of my life.
Lovely.
And that is what emotions can do to you, guys. Are we done? You still want to talk about other things? There are so many things to talk about.
Yeah, so I just wanted to understand your experience of emotion. So where are you now in terms of an emotional range, so to speak?
So I can feel all sorts of emotion if you look at this scale. Okay, I don't know, as per my height, I am somewhere in the joy and in between joy and peace.
It is not, it has
for-
nothing to do with your height,
I
okay?
am aiming for enlightenment, like what Gautam Buddha got in his lifetime, or to some extent Osho. I am aiming for that, but I wouldn't say that I am there, because I am still trying to understand enlightenment means not feeling emotional, or understanding and accepting all emotions together. So
I don't know
it's
either.
somewhere in the middle. I feel at peace, I feel joy most of the time. I do get angry, I do feel sad sometimes.
Yeah, I saw an angry version of you. Like, it's very hard to see an angry Avinash, but I saw Avinash angry today.
I know.
What makes you angry, Avinash?
One thing for sure, if you are not punctual, I can get really angry. The timeliness wala pata nahi. Maybe it is coming from the time traveler wala thing. But I like people who are on time, and I don't like people who make me wait. I do, sometimes I also do the same thing, but I feel angry with me then. So that is one thing, sure shot. If you want to see my anger, that is the one area you can poke me. Another thing that makes me angry is inefficiency itself. Like, you
People
know,
not doing their jobs, basically.
yeah, the inefficiency, and then trying to cover it up with some silly things. That inefficiency makes me angry. I don't know, if you're not capable of doing it, don't do it. I'm
Yeah,
very
like
clear
be
about
honest
it.
with yourself.
You can
No?
just don't do it.
Yeah.
Simple. So yeah, but your anger, all your emotions are like extreme, right? there is no in between. There is no trigger required. Like, you can start crying one moment, next moment you're laughing, third moment you're showing your love to someone, fourth moment you're getting angry, firing someone. So where does this bandwidth comes from? Like, for me to move from one place to another is a challenge.
No, I actually mostly work with emotions only, right? So my body, my mind, everything, like, I just let energy flow through me, and whatever energy is required for the moment is the energy that gets invoked inside of me, and that's why I can switch between emotions without any loss of energy, right? Like, I can rage and I can be really angry until it is required to do that, and then if I have to switch gears into absolute care and love and like joy and peace, I'll do it in like nanoseconds, right? So I think my nervous system really supports me in being able to move through emotional energy with ease, and I think it's my superpower that allows me to connect also with other people with a lot of empathy, because I can really feel what someone is feeling, and because I can feel that, I can also like sometimes I know the actual thoughts they're having, right? So even in the team, when I say that this is what you were thinking right now, and they'll be like, how did you know?
I feel spooked sometimes.
Yeah, like I know
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Like,
Oh.
So I have to actually turn it down, and I have to like tell myself that don't spook people. People will stop talking to you. So I have to turn that sensory information receiving muscle that I have somewhere in my energetic field, so that people feel like a little not so vulnerable around me. But I think it's like emotional energy that I work with primarily, and I think that energy is also what I can send outwards when it comes to wanting to heal someone or like protect someone. It's really emotional energy that I can move across planes and dimensions, and it's also how I understand myself better, right? So yes, I do a lot of psychological work. I go deep into my psyche. I understand what trauma I've experienced. I understand how those mental frameworks.
Do you get that, sometimes you understand emotions so well, you understand the bandwidth and the different kinds of emotions. Do you get uncontrolled emotions sometimes? Okay, it's beyond me now, whatever I'm doing, I don't
Not anymore, right? So as a kid, not even as a
most
kid.
of us, like, that anger is uncontrolled in most of the people. Love is still controlled. But the anger is uncontrolled. Okay, I can't.
Because it's not just anger about that situation. Now what happens, anger is not considered as a very good thing to display in society. So most of us repress our anger. Like, we don't express our anger when we actually want to say something to someone. And then you'll keep repressed. So anger builds up inside your body. And then some situation will come, like somebody crossed your path or some service was not provided, like it's
where you feel empowered.
where you feel like you are not going to be challenged and you have the authority to express your anger,
so
right?
that comes out on these lowly people.
Yeah, like helpers, service providers, where you feel entitled basically, right? That's where all that repressed anger suddenly comes out, and then you'll literally be like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde version of yourself, and then later, half an hour later, one day later, you'll keep wondering why did I act like that.
But this in our work we have seen this anger normally comes out on your partner.
It comes out on your partner if your partner is somebody who can receive it, right? If your partner is equally anger filled, then you will be scared. Like eventually one of the partners will be scared and they'll keep quiet. You can't keep, like, people think they can create drama, but one partner is always more scared of the other partner's anger. So anger is an emotion I can speak for 2 hours. I used to have a lot of repressed anger issues because I was a chronic people pleaser. See, my childhood emotions were in 2 categories. One was I would experience extreme joy and love and happiness when I would be out in nature. I've spoken about this in the previous podcast also, right? Or when I would, there was a cousin whom I loved a lot, like my brother. And every time he would visit, I would just go into this uncontrollable laughter, right? Like I would just experience peak happiness. So as a child, I had this entire range of feeling love and joy and connectedness to the planet, to nature, to my mother. And on the other hand, I had this shame, like ashamed that I was born, ashamed that I was alive, ashamed of my existence itself, and that created that I'm not good enough. So through my life as an adult, as I kept growing up, that shame is what was kind of what people hooked on to kind of be able to control me. So I was ashamed of my existence. So every time, if I was wronged also, I would not be able to express my anger fully at that moment. I would have just run away from that situation, that place. I wouldn't really, like if I wanted to slap a person when they wronged me, my pattern would be actually to run away from that place and to kind of just forget and repress and not talk to that person.
That is what most of us do, right? We suppress our anger.
So I had a lot of anger issues because that anger would just come up some other time. It would come up like uncontrollable. Not now anymore, right? In the last 2.5, 3 years especially, I can navigate my emotions.
Because I remember when we were vegan, you were another person, right? Now you're omnivore. So
that I think is a brain thing itself. Vegans are generally angry people. Dear vegans, if you're watching this, don't get triggered, please. Please take your omega-3s and give your brain the DHA it needs. Your brain will calm down.
But it has biochemical connections, right? Your emotions anger is not only about energy, right?
Anger is one is the emotional energy based on situation. See, every emotion is generated inside your body. You're not going to experience an emotion outside of your body. Once you're outside of your body, you're not having emotional energy, right? Every emotion is generated in your body through neurotransmitters, through molecules, through peptides, through chemicals.
So whatever food you're consuming, it is contributing to...
Food is contributing, biochemistry wise it's contributing. You see people who are on medication who come to us, right? All of these people who are on BP medicines, diabetes pills, statins, they're generally very irritable, annoyed people. The minute these medicines are eliminated from their body, right, the body detoxes all of these annoying chemicals. So many of our clients, right until they detox, they will be like difficult clients to handle, and then after the detox is done, the 10-day detox is done, they become their most gentle, lovable, beautiful selves, because these toxins, and that's something we'll talk about again, right? Yes. Like your body and your emotions. But the body and the nutrients and the food has a big role to play in your emotional energy. So yeah, when I was vegan, I used to be angry. I used to have righteous anger about world issues. That anger was getting misdirected towards global issues, but it was still anger, right? It was wasteful in terms of energy. Now I use my emotions to navigate my consciousness and my evolution. I am not a slave to my emotions anymore. For most people, they are a slave to their emotions instead of being a master of their emotions. So emotional energy is energy that you have been given access to so that you can raise your consciousness and evolve. You have to understand you are the charioteer there, you are the master there, you are the driver. Most people, because they don't have a vocabulary, no one's really given emotional continence training, right? Like potty training is done. Why can't you train your children on how to have emotional continence, to have a vocabulary around emotions? Most people don't have that vocabulary. So the emotions that they experience rule their lives.
Yeah.
Sadness will rule their experience of the day,
If
right?
you ask me what I felt in my childhood, I don't have the memory because there is no vocabulary.
There's no
to it.
vocabulary, yeah.
I can narrate incidents, but there is no vocabulary, and that is what happened with most of the
Yeah.
clients that we work with. They have lots of incidences, but there is nothing.
There
to
is
show
there is no vocabulary to express, or even like what I've seen is to know that in a situation like this is the emotion that you need to invoke to protect yourself. Even that connection is not there.
Exactly.
If someone is violating your personal space, if someone is violating your body, you have to be like fucking Durga and Shiva ready to kill them, right? Why is that anger not there, right? Why has that been numbed down? So that, like, teaching people about navigating emotions, using emotions, invoking the right emotions for the right moment so that you may protect your existence and raise your consciousness. That is a training that like is missing.
I know you can talk about emotions for next 12 hours.
My lifetime. In Avinash's emotional energies best interest list in today's podcast. Today is also like the Aquarius full moon. Huge trigger for like repressed emotions. Both he and I got triggered because of different issues this morning, and thankfully because we are there for each other, we could kind of hold the space for that emotion to flow, to come up with a strategy for it, to create a plan so that both our brains were like, okay, chill, like, you know, there's a way to deal with this. So yeah, that's emotions. I can talk about this for as long as I'm alive and there's a breath in my body, and I think I will do that.
I want to learn from you.
Of course.
To talk more about emotions.
You will.
Experience more emotions.
You will.
Please.
All right.
I'm getting emotional.
All right. Okay. I've got you. All right. Bye bye, guys.
Okay, bye.